All right, we're good to go. Awesome. All right, welcome to the Standard Podcast, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies or the shade area where no one else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe, joined by my host, Aaron Charles, and today we're sitting down with Corsley Edwards, former NBA player, CBA champion, and finals MVP, assistant coach for the Denver Nuggets and Greensboro Swarm. From being the last pick in the 2002 NBA draft to playing professionally across 8 countries, Turkey, Italy, Spain, China, Croatia, Poland, Bosnia, and Lebanon, to winning a championship and now coaching at the highest level. Corsley's journey is about resilience, redefining success, and building a legacy that goes far beyond 10 NBA games and seasons. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build an identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. All right, Corsley, let's start here.
How you doing, Thomas?
Well, thank you, sir. Welcome to the show. Aaron, welcome. This is going to be a good one.
Welcome.
Excited about
We are excited.
Super excited.
Right on. So let's start here. Corsley, you played basketball professionally across 3 continents, won championships in multiple leagues, and transitioned into coaching at the NBA level. What does raising the standard mean to you?
Raising the standard is just doing something that's not in your comfort zone, but everybody else can't, contribute to it and make it, their way, because everybody has their own standard way of living. So that's what, pretty much standard, raising the standard for me would be.
Awesome. So you were the last pick in the 2002 NBA draft. In the NFL, they call that Mr. Irrelevant. I don't know what they call it in basketball.
Probably the same thing. Probably the same thing.
Pick number 15. You went on to play professionally for over a decade and win championship. What's the biggest lie you feel culture sold you about what making it actually means?
Putting in the work. That's the biggest lie. Is putting in the work also, and adding on to building relationships with the right people.
Right.
So, coming from a small university, I wasn't able to have the big alumni reaching out to me and saying, hey, Corsley, you need to make this process, do this step. Everything was all in, because I just thought it was standard. So
right.
What I learned was just building relationships with certain people and, the right people, because you never know, the water boy might be the general manager in the next 10, 15 years when you're going up. So, I got friends like that. So I built my standard that way.
That's awesome. One of the best expressions I ever heard is the toes you step on today are going to be attached to the ass you kiss tomorrow. So you always got to be a good person. So I think we'll try and keep it PG-13 for our younger generation.
We have to get on Thomas all the time. That is language.
And when you left the NBA after 10 games and had to decide whether to keep playing or walk away, what advice would you give yourself in that younger moment? Wait, hold on a second. I got way ahead of myself on this one. I hit the cursor here. What did being the last pick, playing only 10 games in the NBA, and then having to build your career overseas shape your understanding of identity and success?
It shaped me a whole bunch of different ways, just knowing that my counterparts and my teammates and, people had different contracts. Like I learned from them, seeing that, the method of as far as saving, no one really broke that down to me. Making sure I have somebody who's looking over my, my budgeting and make sure I'm taking care of those types of things. What else? Like just seeing everybody's different. Like I got a story I always tell about Chris Webber. Chris Webber was the richest and one of the richest players that I've ever played with. And he just, he didn't spend any money, but he showed me how to not spend money when and you having your leverage, using your leverage of who you are. So that was one of the biggest things that I was taught. Just following, the people who might be successful in that point.
Right.
And just, kind of like mimic them, but also add your your contribution to whatever you learn from them people.
Sure. I mean, that's one of our biggest obstacles, Corsley, when we're dealing with professional athletes. As you know, most athletes at all the major sports, they only have a shelf life of about 2 to 3 years. And a lot of them, we have found that 85-90% of them go broke after 2 to 3 years of leaving their profession. And that's something that, Aaron and I, with your help and with other professionals, we want to give that input and that feedback back to those athletes. So, of course, what we do is Aaron and I are the hosts, so we kind of tag team you. I went at you for the first segment. We got segment 2, so give it to him, Aaron. Don't go easy on him.
Nothing easy. We give it a raw and uncut right now. Let's go.
That's right, raw and uncut. And I'm in charge of this segment. So, and this is about identity and legacy. So you obviously played overseas. Thomas listed all the places you played, from Turkey to Lebanon and China, Spain, all the great places in the world. When you look back at that journey, who is Corsley Edwards beyond the stats and beyond traveling to all those countries? Who are you? And then how would you define character, integrity, and discipline as a result of that?
Okay, well, first thing, start with who I am. I'm a young Black entrepreneur from Baltimore, Maryland. My father was the first Black entrepreneur paint distributor in Baltimore City. So,
Nice.
that holds a lot of different weights as far as like who I am. I'm just want to be the founder of something, like going over and doing things differently and seeing, the guys who might have been before me, how they heard stories about how they might have done something differently. And I just made sure I didn't make those same mistakes, so I wouldn't have those fans on my back or the general manager on my back doing, and saying, like he's just like the rest of the Americans. So I just wanted to make sure that, I wanted to separate myself from everyone, as far as like attitude and mentality. And the thing that kept me close was just, I didn't take a lot of pictures, which I regret now, but the main thing I seen myself being was a basketball player and being the best basketball player I can for my team to make sure we didn't lose and go down to the second division, or make sure we win a championship. So that's who I found myself to be as I played overseas.
Nice.
I love that. What about, how do you define character, integrity, and discipline for yourself? Or how did those 3 things factor into who you are today?
Who I am today, it's just a lot of, ant mold hills that I built to make sure that I can always stand up on top of, a hill somewhere. Just who I am today is just dedicated husband, father, and son, to, me being the only child to 2 great parents who, my mother was a teacher and my father was a paint distributor in Baltimore. And that has made me become a great person and make sure that I'm giving back and make sure I'm helping people, as I seen my mother do for 39 years as a teacher, giving back to kids, as I seen my father pacing back and forth because the job wasn't working right. So I've seen the best of both worlds. So I try to find myself in the middle of being a great entrepreneur as far as helping people financially, helping basketball players, obtain their goals and reaching their goals, and just being, a great shoulder to actually have a conversation with that, is going to actually help you instead of just, hurt you.
Right.
So that's who I am.
I love it. I think that's so important. And what 2 great role models. How lucky they are to have you as a son.
For sure.
I love that. So you've won CBA championships, finals, MVP after leaving the NBA. You were the first pick in the D League draft. You've won championships overseas. What does legacy beyond making it in the NBA mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Leaving a foot, a foot trail in the sand that, somebody can actually put their feet inside my size 15 shoe and follow my footsteps,
Those are
so
big shoes
but
to
yeah,
fill.
they
Okay,
very big,
you
but
got a
the way
lot of room. You
but
get
the way
two
these
in
kids are built
one.
today, the way these kids built today, they're in 20, so I don't know, they might be stepping over my footprints, but like just leaving, a trail in the sand, of watching somebody become successful. It's not going to be always peaches and cream, but if you stay to that path and you stay on your path that you internally hear from yourself, you'll definitely make it. So that's what I do. That's my thoughts on that.
Nice.
One thing I'd love for you to share with the audience is, obviously you've had most people think like, oh, I made it and I played professionally in the NBA, and that's what most people aspire to. But what did it mean for you to be able to play overseas professionally? Like what advantage do you think that gave to you that maybe just staying in the United States playing in the NBA would not have given you?
Well, in the NBA, I was probably like the 13th, 14th player on the team. So attention wasn't really there for what I was able to put forth. And being overseas, that attention actually came to me because the fans really appreciated what I was able and capable of doing, to help their teams and their countries, prevail. And that's one of the biggest things, like from overseas, like you're treated like, a celebrity, as a 5-star celebrity, we normally look at on social media and stuff like that. You feel like that overseas. And over here in the NBA is just, you are part of the team, but you're not getting that recognition as a LeBron James or a Shea Gildress or, a Steph Curry.
Right.
Oh, I love that. I think we talk about that a lot at Blueprint to Blue Chip. And, it's like, what's the right fit for you where you can play? And sometimes we set standards for ourselves or goals for ourselves, and maybe your best opportunity, might be to go D2 instead of D1, where you get to be the superstar of the team
Yeah.
versus maybe riding the bench.
Yeah. Be a big fish in a small pond is what I've always been told. I've always been told that from my pop. My pop used to always say, like, you can go to any university, but be a big fish in a small pond. Because if you go to Central Connecticut State, no one knew who Central Connecticut State was until we went to the NCAA tournament 2 times. So, just actually building that legacy, and that's what helped build my legacy, is going to Central Connecticut State and putting them on the map where other young kids can go to University of Central Connecticut State University and get a degree and play sports as well, and eventually make it to that pinnacle as far as being a pro or athlete or NBA or NFL.
Right.
So, or Major League Baseball.
I love it. No, I think that's so great. I think we saw that, obviously this won't go out at the time we're recording this with the World Series, but the young pitcher that pitched in the game 5 last night, was 6 weeks ago, was playing in Double-A baseball. So it's like you never know where anything's going to lead you as long as you don't give up.
Just don't never give up. And quick thing on never giving up. During the draft in 2002, I was sitting next to Juan Dixon, and Juan Dixon was selected number 17. And I could hear him in the microphone when they was about to hand me the hat. I thought I was being 17. And they was like, no, not him, give it to him. And I had so much, discouragement in myself that I was like, wow, like they overlooking me.
Right.
But eventually I heard my name called. And then the greatest of it all is my favorite player, Charles Barkley, actually mentioning my name, saying, what about that Edwards kid to be able to get drafted to Sacramento? So that was one of, not giving up. So yeah, it's always little tidbits that helps you not give up as long as you're paying attention to those tidbits that you get.
That's it.
Yeah.
I love that. So as a coach, you obviously have coached at the highest level, working with the Denver Nuggets. What's one truth you wish younger players understood about the journey?
It's hard. It's a, sometimes you might cry yourself to sleep, sometimes you might laugh yourself to sleep, but it's a journey. And, as we said before, you never give up. And, and just make sure when you're visiting places and being places, you're holding yourself to presidential standards. And, we don't want to see anybody come in with pants hanging off their butt, do-rags on, cigarettes hanging out their mouth, stuff like that. But, like, just like that's a meme, the do-rag LeBron James thing. But yeah, like you just want to make sure you hold yourself at a standard as we started the podcast off with, and just, being on point, and always having the right answer. Not that you don't know the answer, but just having and being able to be corrected if you don't have the right answer. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I love that. Okay, Thomas, back to you.
Right on. Well, of course, one of the things that you and I talked about early on, and I love that you went to Central Connecticut State. We actually had a conversation with a football player recently. Texas football, high school football is really good. And we asked him, you got some D1 looks. Why didn't you go D1? And he said, I wanted to go D2 and D3 because I wanted to play. And I knew that if I could play, I could make a difference. And this kid had so much confidence. If you could sit down with yourself at Central Connecticut State when you were leading the mid-major program in its first NCAA tournament, what advice would you give the younger version of yourself?
Be patient. Your time is coming. It's already written. It's already written for you. So if you're working at it, eventually you're going to, come head to head with it and be able to face it. So that's what I would have told myself instead of just being anxious and, unwavering,
Right.
which I actually have an opportunity to do that now because my son is actually at Central Connecticut State University playing basketball. So I get to redo it all over again anyway. So it's a beautiful feeling. That's my legacy.
That's unreal. What about on draft night of 2002? You touched on it. When you got picked to the Sacramento Kings, what would you tell that version of yourself on draft night?
All 57 players ahead of me. Y'all better watch out because I was the underdog, and like y'all don't deserve it more than me. And because I didn't go to a Kansas or a Kentucky or a Duke and stuff like that. And like I told myself that draft night was like everybody's going to get it. They're going to know who I am by the end of this 2002, 2003 season. Everyone will know who I am.
That's incredible because as a champion like yourself, there are two basic things that kind of go into playing at that level. You either play with a chip on your shoulder, which it sounds like you did with confidence. Do you feel like the imposter syndrome ever set in with you, or is that just something you kept on the sidelines when you went into play?
Yeah, that's just something I consider myself Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So me and Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like on the floor, I'm the nicest person. On the floor, I'm the meanest person, and off the floor, I'm the nicest person. So it's a night and day thing with me with that thing. So
That is awesome. That is awesome. Because I think that a lot of young athletes, when they look up to guys like you and other childhood heroes, they think you guys have the composure, you guys have it all together. But you guys are still human. You guys still get nervous. You guys still get a little bit intimidated. You guys still have a little bit of the imposter syndrome. But it's you got to find it inside you to get over that hump, right?
For sure. Yeah. Like you wake up every day like everyone else. You put your leg in front of the other, just like everybody else. So you don't never, think that you're better than anybody because you're on this level. You just being who you are and what you've been blessed to do. And just making sure you fulfill when you get into that position.
Excellent. All right, let's turn it over to Aaron. We have segment 4, which is the rapid fire. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, this is the best segment of it all. So I'm just going to say certain words, and then you're just going to finish my sentence.
Gotcha.
So discipline equals
love.
Leadership equals
experience.
Faith equals
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that one. Faith, dedication.
Yep.
Dedication.
Ooh, I like that one. Legacy equals
leaving it all out there so people can follow your footsteps.
I love that. And what's one thing you'd never compromise on?
Person giving up. Can never give up.
I love it. Never give up. Never give in.
Yeah,
That's a
Jim
chip on your
Valvano.
shoulder. Watch out, kids. I'm coming for you. I'm going to be the number one player. That sounds like me. That's my attitude. I'll prove you wrong. It's like a
I'm
prove you
definitely
wrong
gonna prove you
attitude.
wrong. I'm definitely gonna prove you wrong. Look, don't tell me I can't do it, because guess what? In the next few days, you'll see me doing it.
That was so me. That was my whole life. What you say no, I say yes. And what is one message that you would put on a billboard for the next generation?
Reach out to someone who's done it before you. Reach out to, if you have the access to reaching out to somebody, reach out to somebody and ask them, is this the proper steps that you need to be taking?
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I didn't have it. Look, I had to figure it all out.
Yes, if you have people you can seek advice from,
Yeah.
learn from people that have been there, and most people want to share that.
Mm-hmm. That's what I asked my son last night. I said, I was talking to a young kid, what would be my inspiration to him? And he was like, hey, Dad, like, if anybody come from the NBA, I'm listening to him. I said, but everybody in the NBA might not be correct in the way they doing it. He said, you're right. He said, well, at least I got you. So that was the biggest thing.
Yay! That's a big win.
At least I got you. I said, you're right. So you're good.
You got some street cred there.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right. We're going to get into our last segment, Corsley. And before we wrap up, just a quick question about if you could put the Corsley Edwards dream team together. You got me at number 2. I understand that. You at 4 and 5. Who would be the other basketball players that you would put around you?
Shoot. Steph Curry, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
It's kind of like a toss up with my small forward position, but I'm gonna have to go with Carmelo Anthony.
Okay.
And who else? Steve Francis.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
I see Kareem over your back shoulder there, so you wouldn't have him on your top 5?
Oh yeah, I like him as a person, so that I couldn't put him as a player because I never really got to see him in his prime. So I'm just going off of people that I see in my prime. Yeah.
Sure.
Highlights is only half the story.
That's it.
That is true, kids. That's a line. Highlights are half the story.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Corsley, before we wrap up, is there something we didn't touch on today that you feel athletes, coaches, or parents need to know or hear at any level?
Yeah. Reach out to people. Reach out to, the programs, the school, the schooling programs that you have for your kids. Make sure you get involved with that. And so that way you know what's going on. So when you show up to the games, you're not acting, crazy or, not unaware, not acting aware of what's, really going on for your child. So you can hurt them as much as they can hurt themselves by just running your mouth on the sideline. So just be careful as the parents, like just be careful on the sideline who you talking to, because, college coaches are looking at your kids and you don't want to hurt your children's opportunity to get in, because coaches don't want to deal with that when they recruit your kids.
Amen to that one. Like, that's a great point, parents. If you're listening, I love that. It's so good. You could be hurting them. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories of guys who's played in the NBA where I've been a coach, and some of their parents aren't, beneficial for them, and been hurting them in certain teams. If you're playing for an LA team or a New York team, I don't think it'd be a problem. But if you play on a low budget teams, it might not be as good for you to act out, even though your child is the best player on the team.
It's funny you say that, Corsley, because one of the things that Aaron and I started talking about is we're actually the same way that we reached out to you via LinkedIn, and we're going to get into how people can get a hold of you or reach out to you. We're reaching out to referees, both at the football, basketball, and baseball level, because it seems like that line has become very blurry, where parents feel that they could step onto the court, step onto the field, and chastise a referee. I mean, think about it, youth sports. These people do it for the passion of the game. They probably make, $15-$18 a game, and they have to deal with that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. We've lost our minds sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, let's rein it back in here, folks.
Corsley, where can people connect with you or follow you, whether it's be on LinkedIn, social media, or what's the best way for them to follow you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Corsley Edwards, social media, Instagram, Corsley379, Twitter, Corsley1947.
Okay.
And all of those numbers mean something. So yeah, you follow those numbers, you understand what those numbers mean. You follow me, you understand what those numbers mean. So
Well, there you go, Tim. When you reach out to Corsley, you could do a little background check and find out what those numbers mean and impress Corsley by letting them know. Aaron, Corsley, thanks so much. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, Corsley, thank you again for sharing your story, all your nuggets of invaluable insights for the next generation of athletes and their parents. If this conversation challenged you, inspired you, or made you think differently, do two things for me. Share the episode with somebody who needs to hear it, or an athlete who's facing rejection, or a parent supporting their kid through adversity, a coach teaching resilience. So please share this. Connect with Corsley as our second ask on LinkedIn or any of the social media handles he just shared here, and let him know that you're hitting him up through Blueprint to Blue Chip or from this episode. And if you're a parent, athlete, or coach ready to raise the standard, check out to Blueprint to Blue Chip at blueprintbluechip.com. We help athletes build identity, discipline, and legacy that goes beyond the game. And if you're ready to get clear on who you are beyond the game, reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you. It's designed to help athletes who are ready to rebuild their foundation. So thank you again. This is the Standard Podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent endures. Talent fades, but truth endures. Raise the bar, rebuild the culture, become the standard. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Corsley, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
All righty, guys. Man, our pleasure, man. My pleasure. Anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.